Okay, today's video we're going to talk about making landing pages for an e-commerce site that you may be running. Sorry guys for you doing lead generation campaigns. This is mostly not for you. You can still glean plenty of information from this to apply it to your own stuff. I guarantee you that. If you stay tuned if you still just want to learn a lot about PPC. Landing pages and conversion rate optimization, it's all in there as well. But for you guys in the e-commerce field, a bunch of you guys, particularly people who are selling more technical or even just a little bit more expensive products that are at the higher end of the product price range in your category, or just more expensive, and more expensive being a few $100s more expensive only is all it takes. Landing pages a lot of times are just absolutely required to break even with any kind of PPC campaigns that you're running. It doesn't matter if it's Google search or Facebook or whatever. And the reason for that is because the user needs to have more information. Just simply put, bottom line. I'll get into more detail of what that actually means in this video. At the end of the day, if you're just struggling with your PPC campaigns to make money with them, this could be your one golden ticket to actually get it to work. So before you say, F it, I'm done with PPC, this doesn't work for my company, and you haven't done a landing page that you send people to, and when I say landing page, I'm not talking about sending them directly to your website as it is for everybody else on the web to see. I'm talking about dedicated page or pages, but pretty much just one page will do, well, at least for what we're going to review here, and for the most part, at least, and also to at least get you into the profitable territory so you see PPC works, and then you can take it, take it from there. It could very well be anyway that is the one thing that's stopping you from making it profitable enough to pay for itself after all your expenses and have a long-term bit of success with PPC, given that is now a part of your foundation to make the things work. A lot of people don't use landing pages because it's not common knowledge that this stuff exists, which is why I'm making the video. And it's also, obviously labor intensive / difficult to do and expensive to do. I'll tell you how I do the landing pages for our clients where we run upon a client who has to have a landing page to make it work. We make landing pages in-house. I'll put it in a frame of reference what that costs without all the BS involved with talking to somebody who tells you what you want to hear. Oh yeah, we can do a landing page for $500 and it ends up being bullshit, and you come back here and say that I was wrong. It's all about also how it's done, which I'll give you enough information here to make it successful. Assuming landing pages are what you need to be in the break-even category, this is actually going to give you enough information to go out there today, hit the ground running, get the page done, test it, verify it works, and then be happy because you've got a long road of success ahead of you. For you guys who are already making PPC work, you hit a roadblock, landing pages. If you're into like one of the categories I mentioned, more expensive products or technical products, this could be the thing that launches you into the total stratosphere as well. So it doesn't matter where you're at, e-commerce owners, this can potentially make you a lot of money and give you everything that you need to know to be able to do it. That all said, moving forward here, for e-commerce company owners, sometimes your products are too technical or too complicated to send your PPC traffic directly to your default pages on your site and have it work, or have it work not like a little bit, but instead of having it work a lot. So, people, I get the mindset. I always try to get into the mindset of the consumer, or at our PPC firm, of our clients. You got to do the same thing for what you're doing. You got to be able to think like your customer in order to know how to market to your customer. You got to read the reviews. You got to ask your customers questions. If you don't, start asking them questions. Think about how they think. And then you'll be able to be a successful marketer, particularly at PPC, when you're competing directly against other people for traffic. Whoever is the most productive with that traffic wins and gets to afford it. But anyway, in our space, people will spend a lot of money on their e-commerce websites anymore just to do an e-commerce website right in a competitive market, it's 5 figures minimum, obviously, and it gets into 6 figures if you're in an especially competitive market. To make it work. If you're just in a small micro niche where you're selling specialty, fireproof paint, it might have to be in the 5-figure range. But if you're selling, bulk candy, you're in the 6-figure range, because it's a whole different paradigm of who you're competing against and how good their sites look. And if your sites aren't in the same category as everybody else's, you're going to have a hard time making any money in that space. That's number one. But they'll make the site, they'll spend all this money, in their mind, all their problems are fixed. Their problems are fixed. They got their website made by a good, reputable firm, it looks decent. Now, all I got to do is just sprinkle on a little bit of traffic and I'm rich. And sometimes that works, depending on what market you're in. A lot of other times it doesn't. And to know if that's your problem, that's exactly what we're covering in this video. To determine if you are in the category where you actually need separate pages other than, so what's on your site now, need to send them to something else besides just what's default on your website for people to see. A lot of that can be determined by the price of what you're selling. Of course, if it's technical, that's, it also kind of falls into that. But if it's hard to explain to somebody, what is the value and what you're offering and why it has value, you generally can fall into that category as well. Price, though, is the big one that I wanted to talk about. Not a lot of people talk about this, and I don't know why. The more expensive of the thing that you sell, the more convincing you're going to have to do of that person. And there's a threshold in which you basically, in terms of what you're charging, you get over that, you're almost guaranteed to need a landing page, because there's so much information that you need to offer that for that person to feel comfortable in order to buy, that if you just aren't the one doing that, and it doesn't matter if your competition's not doing it, they're probably making shitty money too. There's a reason why car dealers and furniture stores have salespeople in there that get paid on commission to sell you, because if you just had, frankly, wouldn't they love to save that money if they could sell cars by just letting people go out on the lot and look at the cars and come in when they're ready to buy one and just put like a documentation on the window saying this is what specs that this car has? They would do that, but they don't. And they don't do it because there's more that the user expects as far as information to buy that product, and just having the specs isn't good enough. And the equivalent of that with e-commerce is you have a product page on your website that you're sending traffic to. It has all the specs and the details and how to use it and how to install it and how to apply it and the warranty, the return policy, and whatever else that normally you see on an e-commerce product page that you send people to. Or maybe you send people to a category page on your site. But the point I'm making here is you do all that basic information. It's simply just not enough information to cut what it takes to convert that traffic that you have to pay so much for to break into that profitable category, paying for your ad spend and all your cost of goods and everything, your overhead, to make the traffic work. And so you got to add this digital equivalent of what these other companies offline that have to do, that sell a more expensive product, have a salesperson there. Of course, my whole thing that I tell people is if you sell something expensive, you sell it on your website as if somebody can check out themselves, regardless if it's thousands of dollars, and people rarely do that. And then you wait for the calls to come in, and you have a good trained salesperson that can do the consultative selling, which you can Google that if you don't know what that is. And that's primarily how you make money once you sell something over a couple $100 already. But even with that, you can do better if you have the good salesperson on the phone and field those calls well as they come in, or field the emails well as they come in. Even that still isn't a lot. Still isn't enough in a lot of occasions. What you actually need is a dedicated landing page to take people to that has a overview of, similar to how a in-person person would do a demonstration for a person on why this product is significant and why you need it. Okay, so what that looks like, and I drew this chart here to just kind of hit this point home. The more expensive your product that you're selling is, the less the conversion rates normally are going to be. And you're dealing, and it gets harder and harder basically to convert. If you sell a $50 item it's much easier to convert than selling a $500 item, because the information that the consumer needs to feel confident to blow 50 bucks on what you're selling is it's lower. The barrier is lower. The amount of information they need is lower, because who cares? It's 50 bucks. If I'm out 50 bucks, who gives a shit? I'll give this a try. Whereas if they're spending 500, they hold on to their money tighter. They expect more. I have this chart listed here just to see what that looks like, and I've worked on hundreds of accounts. I've audited hundreds and hundreds more to see what the ratio or the relationship between conversion rates and the price of what you're selling, the product of what you're selling, is, to give you an idea of what this is like. Left on the x-axis here, I have conversion rates 0 to 6% in terms of click to purchase, and on the I might have got that backwards. That was the y-axis. The x-axis here is price, in terms of what the product price is that is being sold, and I average this out over dozens of accounts, okay? To give you a general idea of what the conversion rates will be for something you're selling if you're doing it right. And respectively, you start out when it's under 100 bucks, you're at 6 plus percent, 6 to 10%. You get to 100 bucks, you're already at 3.5%. You're at 200 bucks, you're already at like 2.75%. You get to 300 bucks, you're at like basically 2%. You get to 400 bucks, you're like 1.5%. You get to 500%, you're almost just over 1%. And then it just keeps going, and it gets lower and lower and lower and lower. Where the landing pages generally come in handy when we are working with the client, and I know because I've done this enough times, the point in which I suggest you're going to need a landing page to make this campaign profitable is generally somewhere between $200 and $400 bucks. And not every single time, but generally that's where we start getting to the point where landing pages are probably required. At the $200 range, we'll do what the first kind of workaround as far as enhancing the experience for the user when they get to your site, which is taking the site you have and just making small tweaks to it. You take the page you were sending them to, you can make a clone copy of it, you tweak it a little bit for what the user was actually searching for, and you're fine. Now you've already have the potential to convert traffic well enough that your campaigns will be profitable and you can do fairly well. If you get over $400 plus, however, then you're into the category in general. This isn't anything guaranteed for you, but in general, where we'll have to have a whole separate long form landing page that sells the user from kind of where they're assuming that they're totally clueless about what you're selling, to the point where they already got a high level overview of all the benefits and what the product does, and how it's different and all that. Then from that page, you take people to your normal e-commerce site product page, which has here's the technical specs, here's our return policy, and has some product photos on it and maybe a couple videos. And I always call these pages like pre-landers, and really what it does is it warms up the traffic so that when somebody gets to your actual site, they understand the significance of what you're selling already, and then from there you're closing them. It's similar to like the whole car dealership example. All those technical specs are nice. They start asking all those questions once they get to the point where they understand this car is great for families who need to haul a lot of people and who want good safety and then once you get past that, then you get into like the more specifics. But if you hit them with the more specifics right away, most of the time it's not. You always got to match what the user's expectations are. Going back to what I said, get in the mind of the user. If you're going to make things work and be efficient, have the campaigns pay for the cost of the advertising and all that, and the product costs and all that. And so right away with a more expensive item by default, their mindset is, I want to know an overview of this product before I want to know the specifics about this product. To know all the time I'm going to invest in seeing the specifics is worth my efforts here. And you got to also keep in mind, what you're selling, people are non-experts. A lot of times they're totally clueless, and you got to talk to them like a child a little bit. And a lot of times what works best to do that is you show them a lot of photos. here's what the product can do, and here's also what it can do, and show different photographs of what it can do, and you have captions next to photographs, and you tell them in like a story kind of format. But ultimately it's similar to, if you remember, well, still to this day, but it used to be bigger back in the day, on TV, during the commercials, they would always have these gimmicky products where they would show, are you tired of this? And then they would show like a pocket fishing rod that you could, and they would show you being able to use it and how all the main features of it. That's the kind of information that the user wants to see when they're spending all that money a lot of times. And that kind of like child ready format that shows them, like, it gets them interested and excited about the product. Then they can get into specifics. But if you give them the specifics alone, they're not ready for it. They weren't wanting that. They weren't expecting that. They're looking for that. They're going to bounce, and you're going to waste too much money, and your campaign's not going to be profitable. So, with that said, if you're not getting these kind of conversion rates, basically, first of all, then that's the time when you probably are going to want to look into, as per what I've charted out for you here, look into doing something with your landing page, and not just tweaking the text a little bit and maybe changing the layout of the text a little bit, or just adding reviews, which that little stuff helps. But if you're nowhere near, like if you're only half of the conversion rate here, or what I mentioned already, or half the conversion rate to where you need it to be profitable, you want to more so take out the big guns and look at changing and making dedicated pages for your traffic. We had a company who, so before I get there, I guess I'll say, sometimes you can get by simply swapping out the default headlines and photos on your page for certain use cases, and that will serve as a de facto landing page that will get you over the hurdle of, the barrier to being profitable in a lot of cases. If you're in like that $200-300 category or whatever, $100 to $400 category where they want more information, but if you just try a little bit harder to be different than most of the people out there, what they're doing, you can make it all work. And what that looks like is you can basically take the product page of your site and then make copies of it. I alluded to this earlier. And you make each copy geared for certain keywords or certain audiences that you're sending, within the traffic that you're sending. You subsegment your traffic, and then you send people to a version of the page that matches what they were searching for or what they were originally looking for. So to give you an example of this, we were in the ceramic car coatings space. So there's a ceramic, I've talked about this in my other videos on this channel, where you take the ceramic coating product that you put on your car, and once you apply it, it's like a thin invisible layer, and once you apply it, the water and all the dirt and debris usually just slips off the car, and it also makes it super glossy. And it's actually a pretty popular thing now, a big industry. There's lots of players in it. In this particular case, the campaign wasn't profitable, and so what a lot of times I'll do is, well, what I'll do anyway is I'll try to have respectively different pages for the different types of traffic that are coming in. So normally I always have the ad match what the keyword is. It's called the SKAG model. So if they're looking for ceramic coating for cars, we'll have an ad that actually says ceramic coating for cars, and then we would send that traffic to the product page on the website. Okay, or category page. You should always decide per keyword what is the best page on your site to go to. But if that's not making it work, that's not cutting it in terms of the profitability of that traffic, then what you do is you take the next step forward and you look at the landing page. And again, if you're way off still, you don't just make small tweaks to the landing page. You start with the bigger stuff, which is a whole new page. You come up with your own landing page, but this product isn't like $500 or whatever, so we just took the approach, which is your first option, which is to take the product page you were sending traffic to and make copies of it so you can actually make a version for each kind of keyword that you have. It wouldn't be literally for each keyword, but you take your keywords and you group them into groups. In this particular case, all the keywords related to wraps, because also what's big right now, instead of repainting your car, you can add a wrap to your car and it looks like it's repainted. You almost can't tell the difference. and they're cheap. And so people wanted to apply this ceramic coating to the wrap as well. And there's a lot of people searching for that. So we put anything related to wraps and ceramic coatings in its own category. And then with that, instead of just sending them to the regular page that we're sending all the Google traffic to, we make a copy of our page that we were sending traffic to before. We change the headline to say ceramic coating for wraps, and we change the default photo to having a car with a wrap applied, or it's clear that there's a wrap applied to the car. And now the traffic converts 3 times as well as what it would be, or what it did, if we didn't make that change of making a copy of the page, changing the photo, changing the headline, and that's all it took. And so obviously this is the easier, less expensive approach. Why would you not do that? If you could try that first. Again, if you're selling a very expensive product, it probably won't work. You need to offer more information as well. But in that particular case, it worked well. And then so if you can make this work, basically the big things are you change the headline to match what the user is searching for, and you change the photos on the page to match so they're relevant to what the user is searching for as well. If there's multiple photos on the page, make all the photos relevant to the keyword category that you have there. If it's ceramic coating for trucks, we would take the pictures and make sure that there's pictures of trucks instead of just the normal car that was on the default page that we were sending traffic to before. And yeah, it still takes quite a bit of work. You got to hire photographers, whatever, you might have to do certain things to get this done. But that right there, a lot of times can be enough to triple your conversion rate on your traffic, because the first thing people do when they get to your landing page is they scan it real quick to make sure that if they're going to invest time in researching this page, that that it's going to be worth their time. So they look at the headline and the photos first. And if the headline and the photos line up well with what they were searching for, then they'll take the time to read all the content. But if they aren't, a lot of times they'll just bounce, which is why you'll triple the conversion rate just doing that one simple hack. Okay? So you can consider doing that right off the bat. That works great for search campaigns. If you're running display advertising campaigns, that hack isn't necessarily available because we don't know most of the time with that what of the people who want our product, what is their background characteristics. Search ads are great because they always tell us what they want specifically, or not always, but a lot of times, and we can take advantage of that by customizing the experience just for that user, when our competition's usually not willing to do a massive tripling in conversion rate from our campaigns doing that kind of thing. Sometimes with display campaigns, the audiences will be broken up. So if we're having a Facebook campaign and we were targeting truck lovers on Facebook as an audience, instead of having our typical ad and page we send people to as the default ad and landing page that we show to everybody who are on Facebook, we can have the ad have a picture of a truck on it. The landing page, like I said, it's a copy of the original page. Everything is the same except for the default image and the headline being different. Ceramic coating for trucks, have a picture of an actual truck. The conversion rate likely will be double, but more so probably triple what it would be as if there was a headline and the ad image, and of course the landing page headline and the landing page image there. If it was a car, the conversion rate would be 1/3 as of what, just by simply updating everything to have a picture of a truck. I know this is very, very common. Again, ultimately, your click-through rate will go up a lot as well on your ads, which will also cut your cost per click doing that. On top of everything else, if you're going to go ahead and do this, you do it all the way through, you change the ad, and you get a big boost in your campaign performance. Maybe that's enough to get you over the mark of profitability so you could scale your campaigns, which is mainly what PPC is about. You do a whole shitload of work up front to get to profitability, and then when you scale, you make all that back, plus 100 times more. You always got to think about that as you get into PPC, because most of the people that try it and quit, they wanted it to work right away. They didn't have to think, well, what can I do to improve this so it'll work? They just said, oh, it doesn't work, then I'm done. The people that make millions on PPC try it. They may only get 1/3 of the results they want. They figure out, what can I improve? They work on improving, and eventually they get to profitability, then they scale. So if you want it to work, that's the mindset you need. As far as the landing pages go, if you're, like I said, you're in the $400 plus category in terms of what you're selling and the cost of it is, respectively, or it's just a super overly unknown as well as technical product, or just a super complicated, weird technical product in general, you're going to go with the custom landing page that's not just a copy of the page that's you're taking people to on your site now, but a totally new page with a whole totally new radical layout. Okay? So the higher the price of your item, the more likely a dedicated landing page will be required to actually just break even after all your expenses, the ad spend, the cost of goods, the delivery costs, all of that stuff. And I got several examples I'm going to give you as far as this one goes of where we've done this in the past and where it made the difference of whether to go from not profitable to profitable. And the first one was a specialized water filter that it did. It was like a really expensive water filter, $2,000 plus. And it was like the luxury Rolls Royce thing. And for that, I knew right away that you got to have a really good landing page for that. That's not going to work. Because if they don't know, and that goes with what I kind of said before, and I'm going to say it here again, if you're in the higher price point of in the category of what you're selling, you almost for sure are going to need one of these separate landing pages to take people to, because if they don't, you got to be able to explain to them in like a few seconds why your stuff is so expensive, and if they don't, they'll just say, oh, it's too expensive, I leave. So it's not that you can't sell something that's a premium item in your space. There's always a certain subsegment of your market that will buy. It's just a matter of the subsegment that will pay more, can you quickly enough convey that your stuff really is a premium item and you're not just bullshitting them trying to get a high price for a mediocre item? And if you can do that within a short period of time without making the user think too hard initially, you'll make it work. And so the water filter category, we had a really long page, talked about, you go into why it's important to have water filters with these specific features that add minerals and all this, and then why, certain filters don't remove fluoride, and they, basically, in order to get something like that done, you have to do this filters, a lot of them, don't have the testing and all that behind the product, and ours actually has lots of testing and proof of that this is a really good top of the line product. We aren't just saying it, and so on and so on and so on. A long landing page that it has a good bit of information to sell a product like that might take 20 minutes to completely read through, and it's broken down by sections, and you're taking that user from totally not knowing much, you assume they don't know much, and slowly educating them of what's important as it comes to that product, why you're explaining that your product has it, and why other products don't have it, and why that you don't want that. And then you slowly get into trying to, at the end of the page, transition them to the point where, at that point, either got their attention or you don't, and then they can start to go look at things like the warranty and review it, and there'll be a link at the bottom of the page. When they click that link, it takes them to your normal page on your site that has the ability to actually order the product. This initial page doesn't have any e-commerce functionality at all on it. And in fact, I'll put that on a landing page tool like Instapage or Unbounce. I'm actually on an Unbounce guy. I use that for everything, but Instapage is also obviously useful. You can also do the same thing on ClickFunnels, that kind of tool, or tools like that. But that's the general idea of it. And so that worked well. One of the great things about selling a product for more expensive and being the premium person in your space is everybody on the Google search has to pay so much for the clicks. If you could find out a way to sell a product for 5 times the cost, if you could convert at the same rate that they're converting at, you make a pile of money. And so with that, you invest the additional money per product you're going to get into a really stellar landing page. You can invest more in the sales process than them. Therefore, with that, you can come out ahead. So you have to use the advantages you got. You can get more per sale. Therefore, I can invest more in the on-site experience, which then will make sure that this will work, and then you're on top. And ultimately, for me, I'd rather sell something that's premium than not premium, because long term the margins are going to be better. All you got to do is make the marketing better. in general than them, and you will be able to then sell similar amounts but at higher margins. So that's one example. Another example was in the designer mailbox category, if you want to call that a category, premium mailboxes. And so with that, yes, you could look at a mailbox and say that looks nice, but a long sales page that explains all the features and benefits of this product, that was the difference between it not working at all and making millions of dollars a year in sales. And if I didn't make that clear enough before with the water filters, it was the same thing. Trying to send them to just a product page that had the standard product information on it did not work at all. In fact, all of these, it didn't work. All 4 of these examples I'm going to give you, just so that it's clear. We went from it not working to where it worked either well or extremely well. And so, it's a battle. Explaining this stuff, people don't want to get behind it because it's expensive mainly, but when a client comes to us and says they can't get things to work, they usually don't come when it's working well. When you explain to them that their site is not good enough, they take offense to it and they don't want to do it, and they have all these, their egos there and all that. You finally, either you convince them to make the page better because that's what's required, or they don't, and they go somewhere else. But respectively, a lot of times, that's the known factor in this equation, which this is why I'm making this video here, so that you guys can, know and have examples of what type, what products out there and so forth, where this is the one factor that made a difference between the campaign working and not working. In the designer mailbox, space, it showed even how this thing opens up and what's so, good about that, and the security features of the thing, and how you could customize the thing, and then so on and so on and so on. I don't want to give away all the exact details about that product because that client we still as an active client, but respectively, that's the kind of thing that you need to do with your page, taking the user from totally a dummy, assuming they're a dummy, and everything that you need to know about mailboxes, why you want a premium mailbox, why the features we have are on there for a reason, and therefore you've set your product out as something that's different than everybody else's. Then they can get behind the price and looking more in detail about the product on your product page. And generally, if it's an expensive product that's over $400, they'll get to your product page and then they'll just call. They're not going to just read through and buy, like I said before. So that was another market where that was the one factor that made it work. Another one was where we were selling expensive premium dog harnesses. So it doesn't have to be just, with this example, this is a good example itself of why the price alone isn't the determiner of whether or not you need a landing page, because sometimes it'll just be the most expensive product in the category. It may only sell for $50, but the rest of the items in that space are $10. Okay, so, and that's what it was in that market. And so I knew in order to sell this, we have to build the case for this in an entertaining way, which is the good people that make landing pages can do information and entertainment mixed as they make these landing pages to explain why there's a product that costs $50. Dogs love it. It's actually good for the dog because it doesn't choke the dog, and ultimately, the reason why it doesn't choke the dog is because it has these features. And other dog, harnesses, they choke the dog, and you really only can get to where you don't choke your dog if you buy this particular product. And that kind of thing was done on the page. But with that particular situation, that one thing of having that landing page made the difference between it working to where it'll sell, but not enough to cover all the expenses, to where they were doing millions of dollars in dog sale or product sales by having that landing page for actually to send people to, which on Google it worked, and then that page was so good, explains so well why this product should be purchased, even if it is 4 or 5 times the price, that we could do a display advertising on it just fine, Facebook and so forth, to people who want to, again, there's a certain part of the market that will pay anything for their dog. So if you come into that market and you just come out with the best thing, even if it's 5 times the price, you can actually get it to work if it's legitimately 5 times better in most of the cases just by having a good landing page to send people to. and therefore doing the marketing better, which if I ever get into selling a product, that's where I'm going, because it generally always leaves lots of room to be able to spend on advertising. Then you can, once you got something that works, you can scale like crazy and just, be everywhere after that, really realistically. But yeah, this particular product defied the price rule that I gave you, where if you're over like $400 or whatever, you got to pretty much always have a landing page to really get into the details of explaining to the user why the market, that you're in, why, there's certain things that you need to know before you buy a product, and explaining why they should go one direction over the other, and then, placing your product as one of the products, or basically only product in your market, to be specific, that covers all these major things that people need to know, don't know, and because they don't know, they get screwed over. You're going to get with this product, and you're not going to be a part of that category who isn't happy with their purchase because of reasons X, Y, and Z. It could be also this product, instead of just saying these other products don't do well because of X, Y, and Z and our product has it, the other angle, by the way, to go is, this product is just amazing. Look what it can do. It can do this, it can do this, it can do this, it can do this, and just show photographs with captions, so that they don't have to do heavy reading as they scan. They can do heavy reading after they're sold on this product, which is why on the initial page you take them to that dedicated landing page, you have products, lots and lots of images, and just little bits of text like captions next to your images, and also of course be videos in there as well, and broken down by section. Here's what it can do, here's what else it can do, here's what else it can do. And then once they're already have been reading that page for a minute already, they're already bought into reading the boring stuff after that. The other one, those were all B2C. I wanted to give you one example where because we do this all the time, but in the B2B space, there's a guy who is selling corrugated signs. So it's like those political signs you see, it's like offline spam, that's what I call it. Those signs that go in the ground, they have, 2 spikes, and then there's a rectangle up top. It's made out of plastic. It's corrugated plastic. And they sold those in bulk, basically, for people that are running political campaigns or doing they do for real estate, like open houses. They're putting stuff on the signs and for that and stuff like that. There's other markets, but those are the couple of the main ones that I remember. And so with that, just sending them to a page that says, here's what our product is, here's the price at different, kind of different levels, and we're running a special, that did not get to where the campaign was profitable enough. It converted at less than a percentage point. But when we switched to have a dedicated landing page that says how our product actually is superior and why you're going to like our product, and specifically to get you the best deal, you can input basically what you need, and we're going to give you the right option, which is something you can do on your stuff as well. Actually, we do that quite often, where answer these few questions here, and we'll output the model or the type or the grouping of products and the quantity and the category that you need that works the best. A lot of people love to interact that way, and once you get them to interact that way, first, usually you can get their information at the end of that. Once it spits out an answer, you could say, we'll email it to you, just put your information in, so you'll get more people to talk to. And if you have a good salesperson or sales staff, that can be a good way to get their leads. But the whole idea behind the landing page is you get them, the whole time they're saying, should I leave, should I leave, should I leave, should I leave, should I leave? And you get them to read one thing, and they say, okay, I'll read one more thing. Oh, okay, that was actually interesting. Oh, okay, I'll read one more thing. And they get to the bottom of the page, and they weren't intending on staying that whole time on the page. And once they get to the point where they're interacting and entering anything in about themselves, you pretty much got them. So those interactive devices I love. They're a little bit harder to do, obviously, but they're definitely worth it. But anyway, with that, it went up to, we were getting 2 to 3%. So that was the saving grace on that particular campaign as well. So it can be B2B related stuff, it's the same thing. So more expensive it is, the more likely you need a landing page. The more technical it is, And the less knowledge that the user has about your market in general, the more likely you'll need a landing page, even if it's less than a few $100s. But you're in a category that you're the highest one in that market. That's another time where a landing page is usually going to be required to really get across what you need to get across to frame the value of what you're offering in a light-hearted way that they're going to be willing to look at and invest money or time into before you bombard them with all the boring stuff, if you will. So anyway, just to rehash this though, instead of sending them to your site, you send them to a page that you make like unbounce or whatever, or lead funnel or lead pages, and then you take them, you take them through a demonstration of the product from start to finish and what is cool or neat or needed about this product. They get to the end of the page, and then the bottom of the page it has a call to action that says, "See our warranty and other terms about this product." And they click like shop now or whatever, and then you take them to your usual product page you were sending them to before or thought you should send them to before. And so that page is does nothing but warm up the traffic before it actually gets to your page. And some people might think, by the way, which I'll get this out of the way, if in case you're thinking that how would it convert better if you're going to stick a page that they have to go through before they can even get to your page? If that person's not, basically the initial page gets them so warmed up and open and receptive to buying from you when they get to your page, that even though they have to go through an additional step, the conversion rate ends up higher. The conversion rate on your initial page, you could have got a 0.5% conversion rate on your e-commerce page, sending them directly there. By the time they get to that same page after they've been through your initial landing page, it can go up to like 5 to 10%, whole different category. And the people that get through your landing page, most of the time you can get about 10-15% of people to click through to your e-commerce page as well. So realistically, the normal results we're going to get, though, just to sum it all out, is you're going to get 2 to 3 times as much sales and conversion rate basically by sending them through that initial page if you're in one of those categories that I mentioned. And so you can, if it works, maybe you don't do this because it's it's going to take you some time and money to do. If you want to try to make more money, go ahead and experiment with it. I mean, obviously, if you triple how much you're making from the page, investing a few $1,000s to do it is a pretty good bet. You always you need to make more with PPC. You got to constantly be taking bets to see what's going to work so you can build. And of course, this is a more expensive bet. You may say, well, I don't want to lose all this money. You spend a few thousand, you can make $1 million plus over the next 5 years if you're right. I would say do it. It's a little tough, getting people to agree with me sometimes because they don't know what like I do, and I understand that. But a landing page that generally does the way, as mentioned, takes them through a introductory presentation of your product will cost $3,000 to $15,000, and that's not even the real high end. If you had something that was super complicated, like you were selling a drone, I would spend more than $15K. And yes, that sounds ridiculous to most people, but I can tell you, there's somebody that will sell you a landing page for $10 on Fiverr. Doesn't mean it's going to work. To do a landing page right, you got to have somebody super experienced in conversion rate optimization and making landing pages specifically. And people that do that make big bucks because it's a hard and rare skill to actually have. People can design, but it doesn't mean they can make designs that convert. And there's design, and then you need a copywriter to write the text. And of course, if you're programming it on your site, you need a good programmer that's going to make the end design look exactly like the original design on Photoshop look like. Whereas I would skip the programming part and I would just use the unbounce if it were me, because then you don't have to worry about the end design looking like what the designer put together. But generally speaking, if you're thinking you're just going to have somebody in-house make you a landing page and they have never done a landing page before, you're basically probably kidding yourself. Go ahead and try it if you don't agree with me. You may not say, I don't want to gamble $8,000 on a page that may not work. you just put yourself in the user's shoes. Look at your current page and then go to our landing page portfolio on our site. Look through the landing pages that we have there, specifically for products. I have a few examples there. What would you rather buy from? If you were the user, be honest with yourself. Those pages easily help make you understand why that product is being sold in the first place. What's different about it? What's better? Ultimately, that's what they're looking for. What's different about this? Why should I buy this item? And they want to be talked in very simple terms. And with that, it's so easy to click the back button that ultimately you make them think a little bit too hard or a little bit too frustrating or making them work a little bit too hard, they'll leave. And that's what you're always up against. And so in order to do that, it's not going to be simple to explain it. Salespeople get paid big money because they can explain well and demonstrate well. Well, this page is your salesperson in print. And so therefore, how could it be cheap? But anyway, that's everything in a nutshell about what I wanted to talk about on e-commerce sites and landing pages. Again, if you're selling something over a few $100s, you may need a landing page to make your campaign work or work better. If you sell something overly technical that people don't quite understand very well or easily, you may need a landing page to take your stuff to the next level, or to the stratosphere, if you will, with PPC and what it can possibly produce for your business. If you're the most expensive product in your category, you may not need this to frame the value of what you offer so that they don't leave before they give you a chance to really look through in the details of what you have on your site by default. So those are the three main things that I have to present or ask of you or present to you that you should answer to decide if you need a landing page or not. And of course, if you're not making money, I would also obviously strongly consider doing this as well, even though it's going to cost you some green to get this set up the correct way and not the half-ass way. If you do it the half-ass way, a lot of people, it really irks me, but they'll say, I don't want to spend $8,000 for a landing page. I'll do it for $1,000. If that works, I'll do the $8,000 one later. That's not going to work. It's just like you can't hire a shitty salesperson and say, if the shitty person can't sell it, then I won't ever hire the good salesperson. There isn't many things that are a light switch on or off with PPC, but this is one of them. Either the page is done correctly or it's not. If you're not going to do it right, don't waste your time with it, because you're going to waste $1,000. And so you're taking a bet to spend $8,000 to make millions. So respectively in business, you're always looking for bets like that. This is one bet that can seriously be one of the best things that you've ever done for yourself, for your e-commerce company, for the product or products that you sell that are expensive. If you have quite a few products, of course, you may have to do a few of these landing pages. Start with one, and this is why a lot of people don't do landing pages as well, because it would take a lot of work to do all of them. But once you do one and you earn so much money off of that, reinvest it in the second and then the third. Once you actually get a cadence down of what works for one, you can hand that to the designer and they can make another 50 for you. Of course, it'll cost you, 20 grand or 200 grand to do them all. But, of course, you can mathematically plot out, if I'm making 3 times as much money now from this, or this now puts me into the category where I can make 10 grand a month from this product now, you can obviously mathematically plot that out to see when and how much doing it for all your products are going to be worth. And all the testing that you do with PPC should be around. If you don't know what you're doing already, you test one small aspect of what you're doing with what I mentioned on these videos or whatnot. Once that works, you pay somebody to do it the rest of the way. You figure out what they're going to charge. You figure out what you're going to make. You don't get emotional about it. It's going to cost you a lot, but it's not easy making money and beating your competition so that the traffic that Google has to sell or Facebook has to sell, you're out converting the other person, so you could afford to do it and they can't. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. There would be no opportunity. The opportunity is for you to do better for your consumer base than your competition. If you do it, you're going to make all the money. They're not. So, wrap it up with that. If you have any questions, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel, usually within a day or two. I'd really appreciate it if you liked this video, if you did find some good information from it. If you want to learn how to make a ton of money with PPC, you should really consider subscribing to this channel, because I come out with all kinds of working strategies on this channel about stuff I've used actively in our clients' campaigns here at our firm. And it's just for easy, free info for you to be able to ratchet up the results that you're getting on your campaign on a regular basis without having to test stuff, random stuff that may or may not work necessarily. So, and I also have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog, which has more so step-by-step information on how I physically build campaigns for our clients here as well. If you want to know more so in detail how to set things up like I have, that are active working ways to set up PPC campaigns that work on Google and Facebook and so forth, Google Display Network, you can also find really, really good information there as well. So with all that said, I'll wrap it up. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you on my next one that comes out in another day or two with some more great information on how to make more money with PPC. See you there.